Good evening, my dear friends, travelers, and photographers. In our weeks, this is the 9 episodes, and is covering a new nations, India, Rajasthan. From today onwards, for the next 5 Saturdays, including today, I'll be covering a fort and palace series of India at Rajasthan. And to begin with, I would like to share with you some historical and geographical background of Rajasthan. Now, Rajasthan, if you look at the maps, is actually located at the northwestern of India and is bordered to Pakistan. And at the same time, you realize that from the size of this Rajasthan state, it's quite big in size. Frankly speaking, that Rajasthan have occupied about 9% of the total land area of India. And its land area is covered about 342,239 square kilometer. And at the same time, being a larger state in India, we have a seventh largest population in India. The man ranked number 7. Although Rajasthan is the last stage, unfortunately, within its state lands, quite a large area is actually covered under desert. The name of the desert is called Thar Desert. This Thar Desert is the largest desert in India. And at the same time, this desert spanning across 4 states. And Rajasthan is one of the states. The other 3 states are Punjab, Haryana, and Gujarat. So you can imagine that actually in a state that have large area of lands are under desert, so you can expect the weather can be pretty hot and dry. And because of this, traveling to Rajasthan or to this part of India is only recommended during the month of winter. And of course, the recommended period is likely to be from the month of October till February the next years. Because during the summer or even during springtime, anything come earlier than October, the temperature, the weather can be very, very hot, and some even can go beyond 45 to 50 degrees Celsius. So it's very unbearable type of hot temperatures. So visit to Rajasthan is recommended, as I say here, from the months of October till February. Now, these lands, or this Rajasthan, even look at the name Rajas, R-A-J-A-S-T-H-A-N. Put away the S-T-A-N. It's what it means, Raja. So basically, to me, Rajasthan is the lands of king. Why I say so? Because before the British India rule, there are many, many kingdoms as said in this part of the world. And this small kingdom, they fought among each others. So as a result of that, they will need to protect themselves. So they built forts to protect themselves. The cities are built in a fort. Palaces all are built in the fort. So therefore, you can find that quite a lot of forts and palaces can be found in Rajasthan. And some of these forts are gigantic in size. There's a reason one prompted me to share with you India, Rajasthan, particularly as a start for the next 5 episodes. So this is the route that I took when I traveled to India, Rajasthan. Of course, our main transit city is New Delhi, and from there then all the way by lands, we visit the Jaipur, the capital city of Rajasthan, and from there we move westwards, make a loop back, and you can see that the most of the journey that we cover are passing through the Thar deserts, the largest desert in India. Now today I'm going to share with you a very interesting fort or palace. They call them Amber Palace or Amber Fort. And you can look from this picture above that these forts are built on a hill. And even from far, you can see the size of this fort is very, very large. And because of that, to visit to this fort, you need at least half a day. Now, let's move on with the picture. Now, as I mentioned earlier, in India, particularly in Rajasthan, you are actually in a state where most of the lands are deserts. So source of water is very important. So in this fort, they built beside a lake. And this lake actually acts as a reservoir to supply the drinking water to the fort. And at the same time, they built islands, right, on these lakes as a gardens for the kings and his family member. So it's quite well planned. And these forts actually are large in size, not only large in size, but they built in 4 distinct zones. Alright? And these 4 distinct zones, they have a courtyard of its own. I will share with you as go along with the picture of from courtyard 1, courtyard 2, 3 and 4, and the building the surrounding this courtyard. I will share with you today in this episode. Now, the uniqueness of this fort, you look at the picture here, it's still taken from far. This on the other side of the lakes. We are not actually somewhere near to the fort yet. We are on the other side of the lake, whereby it's where the main access road are. It's very, we got down. And this picture, you can see is much closer. Right? And you can see that there are buildings that stagger up from lower level, from the right to the left, right? I mean, if from your right hand side to the left hand side, you find that you're moving upwards. Actually, it's exactly you're moving from the lower courtyard, moving upward. Each courtyard you move further is higher. First courtyard is the lowest, second courtyard of course the higher, third and fourth. So you can see that you are actually stepping in, moving from low ground to high ground. Now this fort, you can look further on this picture itself. You can see the innermost is the more important area. The outers on the right hand side is the entry point, and then on the leftmost actually is where the residents. I will share with you more of it as we go to some of the pictures later on. So just look at some of the images. You can see there's a ramp where people walking up. They actually have 2-way or 3-way you can access to this Amber Palace. One is by climbing the steps. 2 is by elephant ride on the white ramps, cobblestone ramp. 3 is actually drove up if you have a car. For some local, they drove up because there's a parking visitor park quite near to the entrance of the fort. A car can be accessed. So you can see from these pictures, the elephant ride, the steps, and the elephant enter the gate. Now, this gate is called Sun Gate, right? And the name given to this gate, because this gate facing the east is where the sun point, where the sunrise is, and therefore it's called the Sun Gates. Right? And you can see that all these gates are very tall and large in size, because elephants during the ancient time, during the early years in India, besides using as a means of transport, it also been used on war. In fact, they ride the elephant and attack the other enemy. It's just like a tank, you know. Elephant just like a tank at the time. Even it happened in Thailand as well. Elephant have been used for many purposes. And one thing to mention here, you can see that while looking at the pictures, beside this fort, right, there's another fort nearby. There's another fort nearby. And this fort, the nearby, actually is meant to be an escape road. There's a subterranean passage linking this Amber Fort and the other forts that's nearby. And the purpose of it is very clear. It's very clear. And the fort that nearby is called Jaipur Fort. It's also one of the very important fort. Of course, during our visit, we didn't have the time to visit the fort, because the fort, I understand that there's a lot of climbing, and it's much high up on the other side of the hills, and there's a lot of walkings, much more than you need to spend in Amber Fort. So you can see that even in strategically, when they build the fort itself, they are thinking of emergency escape, just in case that the fort rose to the enemy, fall under the hand of the enemy, so the king and the family people can escape safely. So elephant rides, and you can see that these are ramps, and they have a ramming up all the way to the huge gate and entrance gate. And this is another view of the fort from a distance away. This is a leading step, quite a wide path that for people up to walk up to the palace. This is just another view of the fort wall. As you walking up the step or walking down the step, we look around. This is a view of the surrounding. You still have found some very small building around, and is linked up to the forts that make the fort the gigantic size. The fort is made up of many buildings complex that join together. And when we will be in the fort, and then I believe that at this point of view, we are actually in the second courtyard. And we look down, we can see there where the lakes are, the reservoir, right? A beautiful lakes or reservoir. And then you look against at angles, you find that there's a square piece of land that protruding into the lakes. In fact, these are man-made gardens. They make beautiful gardens, picturesque gardens on these lakes, and it's well landscaped. So it's as a royal gardens for the kings and his family members. This is just another view, and this picture was taken almost close to the evening. Here we are on the fourth courtyard, right? The first courtyard is a huge courtyard, and actually this courtyard been used as the meeting place and the assembly place for the soldiers, as well as venue of important occasions. It's a festival ground, right? Where any major occasions or occasions that happen or festival, they will hold a festival here in this gigantic large courtyard. And the name of this courtyard is called Jalap Chowk. Jalap Chowk. Now, just to touch on the Sun Gate, the name the Sun Gate given in Hindu is Surajpur. Surajpur, P-O-L, Pur stands for gate. And not in this picture. Yeah, in this picture, in this picture, you can see there's a gate there. This is actually the Sun Gate. It's facing the east. You can see the shadows, the shadow of the sun, because we were there in the morning. And you can see the shadow of the sun is directly shine on the gate, and the shadow is just right behind the gate in Courtyard 1. You can very clearly see from the shadow. You know exactly which direction this gate is facing. It's facing the east, the sun. And this is a view from Courtyard 1 to the building that's sited in Courtyard 2. And in fact, the building that you look at is actually important buildings in this Amber Fort, and it's called the Dewan I Am, or it's called the Hall of Public Audience, and it's a court used by the king to meet his senior government officer, right? And before we can access to Courtyard 2, we have to actually access from this staircase that you can see in this picture. As we are ascending this staircase, moving toward Courtyard 2, it's quite a big difference in level. I can understand strategically that you need that for defense purposes, just in case in the event of war itself. Then they found that the enemy cannot easily access from Courtyard 1 to Courtyard 2 except through the step or the staircase. Here we are in the Courtyard 2, and in Courtyard 2 you find that actually they are surrounded by building all the four sides, and right in the background of these pictures is the very beautiful buildings, and this building below there's an entrance to the Courtyard 3, and I will go closer to have a look of this building. You can see the architecture though. This is one of the most attractive part of the palace of this fort, and it have a Hindu Islamic architectures, and I was told this was somehow linked to a Mongol origins, right? Because I read some history, and it said that actually Northern India during the 16th to 18th century, during this period of time, was under the rule of Mongol. Right? That means Mongolia have actually not only captured the Middle East, he also have moved southward to occupy the southern Asia. So you have quite a great influence of the this Hindu Islam over here. And the Hindu, because it's this architecture span, the India during this period of time span over, I think, about 3 centuries, 16th to 18th century, 300 years. And during 300 years, actually, there's a lot of events have taken place. It's under the rule of Turkey, under the rule of Mongol, under the rule of China, under the rule of Turkey. And therefore, all these kingdom who rule this part of the world is somehow or other bringing their own culture and architecture aspect of it. So you can see that actually this architecture in this part of India is quite unique, right? And what they usually call this style of architecture, they call them Mughal, M-U-G-H-A-L, Mughal architectures, right? So it's actually considered the amalgamation of Islamics, Persian, Turkish, and Indian architectures, particularly these four main architecture merging together because they've been in control under these four different type of rules during these 300 years. And you can see this is above the gate for entering to Courtyard 3. It's very, very beautiful, decorated, and you can see there's one chamber there, and the window, 3 windows there, and again there are 2 small windows side by side. In fact, this is the place where the queen and the royal ladies, they are there during when there's a festival taking place in the courtyard. They are not supposed to come out and let people see them. So what they did that they hide, and they hide in, or they go to this place above this and courtyard, this gate, above this gate, and there they look down to courtyard, and for them to enjoy the festival from the window above. So you can see it's very beautiful, decorated Hindu Islamic architectures shown in this part of the building. This you can see that very close look. And I've been to Iran, and I found that this is very similar to the mosques, the architectures in Iran. Of course, Iran the architecture is more intricate compared to here, but you can see there's a very close links in between Iran, Pakistan, India, northern India, Turkey. All this area, you can see that the architecture somehow or other have a lot of similarity. This is just what I mentioned, the Dewan I Am, the puppet audience, hall of puppet audience, where actually they came meet with a senior officer, and also for VIP that visiting him. You can see some of this close. I will give you some close view of this architecture of this building. Again, very outstanding and remarkable. The workmanship is, I consider, is very high skill. Even the grills, right, on the windows, it's not easy to produce this type of architectures. Now there are a few other important buildings in this palace. One of them is Dewan I Khas. This is actually a so-called hall of private audience, is whereby the king will meet with very special persons, or with his family members, or the diligence, or so-called the king from other country, or very special event compared with just now the Dewan I Khas. Dewan I Am. In Malaysia, Am means general, right? And I Khas, same. You can see that the way you name it, Dewan I Am, Dewan I Khas. If you are Malaysians, you know very well what is Am, what is Khas in Bahasa Malaysia. So you can understand that in fact, these Bahasa Malaysians are adopted from languages used in other countries. In this case, from India. So it is just a much closer view of the architectures of you can see the beam and columns and carvings in this building. And then of all the visit, I think the most eye-catching piece of work is this called Mirror Palace. This Mirror Palace, there are few sections, and I'm going to share with you each and every section and to show you the uniqueness of it, right? And you can see from this picture itself, the architectures of the building is somehow going to change from slide to slide, and because they are in different sections, and this is basically in courtyard 3 of this Amber Fort. This is exactly what I mean by the Mirror Palace. You look at the wall, as well as the ceiling, as well as the columns. They have been decorated by tiny mirror, right? That put on it intricately to form a pattern. So it's about million pieces of mirror was placed together, right? And then we can have a closer view of this. In fact, I believe that this piece of work itself, you couldn't find in other part of India, except in this palace. This is what makes this palace so popular among the tourists. This is another section of this Mirror Palace. or this section of the courtyard 3. And here you can see that the key feature is actually the carving. The carving that's on the wall and the marble inlay on the wall, and also above the ceiling. Of course, there are some certain part you can still see that there are mirror, those tiny mirror decoration and the carving. Some of them are entirely carving. Some of them are actually entirely mirror decorations on the wall. These are some of the windows carving and decoration on the window or the recess on the wall. And here is basically the carving on the wall. And as we move on, after the most interesting part of the whole fort, we go on to the fort courtyard. In this fort courtyard is where the place where house the queen, the residence of the queen and the ladies, royal ladies. And there are many rooms, and the queen, each one of course occupied, have own rooms. And I was told actually in this courtyard 4 and the buildings where housed the queens and the royal ladies. Particularly for the queens, the king had many queens, not only one queen. So each queen, each of the place stay of the queens, there's a private passage link from the king place of rest, a place of stay, so that the king can decide which queen he want to visit for the night. All right, and it's linked. So therefore you can see that all these palaces are all well linked through interconnecting passageway. And the building, there's a patio at the center of this courtyard 4, right? And this courtyard 4 is basically is known as Zanana Dori, right? Zanana Dori actually is a term using for so-called personal chamber of the queen, right? And at the courtyard there, and that patio is called Baradari. The building, you can see the square building on the left is called Baradari. It's where the place for the queen to meet, and or rather say a meeting place for the queens, or gathering place. So these are the picture of the chambers, the queen chambers in courtyard 4. So you can see the architecture is on every corner of the forts, the railings, the arch, the windows area, right? Even the cornices on the wall are all very unique. And of course, in the courtyard 3, it houses very beautiful landscape gardens. You can see from this picture. This picture actually is taken in courtyard 3. And here is the passage. The passage I mentioned to you, the interconnecting passage, is connecting between all buildings in the palace. So actually, literally speaking, during our visit itself, actually walking past a long passageway. And this, at this point when I take this picture, actually is before we enter the palace or the fort. Alright, at the roadside, the main roads there, and you can see that these all are the entrance point, the entry point for visitor. And you have so many pigeons, and when you go nearby, the pigeon off or run away from you, and they are everywhere. So I managed to capture quite a fair bit of this pigeon that resting on the roof of the building nearby. This is close to even late evening. You can see the light is and then also the setting sun. So picture a bit dim. Well, this is just to show that the setting sun and the effect and the color on the wall, on this old fort building wall. And of course, the one thing that attracted me most that you can find that the people here, the locals, the dress is somehow very, very colorful and vivid in colors, very bright colors. And you can also have performers like these gentlemen on the left. And we also have a vendor, lady vendors here and there selling local snack and stuff and handicraft, anything along the way. And of course, the most important is the headwear. You can borrow one and put on it and take pictures, or you can buy. They are also selling, it's quite a nice headdress. If you want, you can buy one. In fact, I found it's a good souvenir. If you want, you can buy one. In fact, it's very, very beautiful, the headdress or headwear. Okay, so this is about today, what I'm going to share with you on this Amber Fort of Rajasthan at Jaipur. I'm going to share with you 4 other forts of Rajasthan in the subsequent weeks to come. And if you are entertained or enjoy these travelogues, please do share, subscribe, as well as like, so that you will notify. The next episode will be the coming Saturday at the same time at 9 p.m. will be screens. Alright, I will upload the video and you just be on 9 o'clock. It will be upload and turn on officially. Thank you for viewing, and I hope that you enjoy. And please remember, stay safe, stay strong during these pandemics. For all Malaysians, I wish you well. For all the friends in the world, I wish you well too. Have a good evening. And for those of different time zone, I only say good days. I'll see you again in the coming episodes. Chris Lee Travelogues. Thank you very much. Bye.